Thank you, Tom. You know, as Tom goes through all this, I sit up here and you have to chuckle a little bit, right? I mean, you got the real pigs, you got the big pink pig. You hear about how golf lessons are going to create general officers in the military, and about Charlie Rangel's monument to himself with taxpayer money, and it all seems pretty funny and amusing until you realize this money don't come from nowhere. This money comes from one of two places. Either you pay more taxes for everything in that book, or you borrow the money for everything in that book. So the question for people out there is, are you willing to pay more taxes, to see your taxes go up for this stuff that's in this book? Or are you willing to pay more taxes for interest so your kids can pay for the stuff that's in this book today? The answer from the public is clearly a resounding no. That's why you're all here. That's why this book gets so much attention. But unfortunately, from the 535 people who work over there on that hill, the answer is still not no. But as Senator DeMint said, we're making progress. We're finding out more of these now. We're finding out who did them more, and I think in some cases there might possibly be a little embarrassment and shame at work for a few people, and hopefully there will be more. So we are making progress, and eventually, if the people outside the Beltway let the people inside the Beltway know that they don't want their taxes going up or borrowing more money for this stuff, then eventually it will stop.
Thank you, Tom, very much. My name is Tom Price. I represent the 6th District of Georgia. I'm in my second term. When I first came to Washington, I believed that sunshine was the solution for earmarks, that if we just put enough light on the issue, that in fact people would be shamed into not requesting some of the ridiculous kinds of things that we see tax money going for here. But that isn't the case. Sunshine in Washington isn't like sunshine all around the nation. And so I'm proud to stand with my colleagues here and want to commend Citizens Against Government Waste for bringing into focus the ridiculousness of some of the programs that have been adopted in earmarks. But it's not just ridiculous programs. The system that we have right now is corrupt, and it's corrupting. And to bring focus to that, a very powerful individual in the House of Representatives has had defense contractors move into his district because they believe it will result in more money for their business. That's a system that's corrupt, and it's a system that's corrupting. I'm hopeful that what this will do this year is allow more individuals to have greater courage to stand up and say, no, we're not going to do that anymore. That's not the system that we want. That's not the system that's right for the American people. So that when we come back next year, in addition to the real pigs and the pink pig, we'll have more individuals behind us and a smaller booklet to present to you all today. Thank you.
Congressman Brown.
Thank you, Tom. I'm Paul Brown. I was just elected to the 10th Congressional District seat from Georgia last summer in a special election. And when I ran a race talking about positive change. And one of the positive changes that I was talking about was stopping the egregious, wasteful spending in the federal government. And I'm pleased to be here today. I believe very firmly in this document, the Constitution of the United States. It only, if you look in Article 1, Section 8, the powers of the federal government are enumerated or listed. And there are only 18 things there. And I believe very firmly that the federal government should only be doing those 18 things, which means that most of our tax dollars are spent for unconstitutional projects. We hear about all these egregious spending projects that are going through the budgetary process, but the whole budgetary process is wasteful. The whole budgetary process is corrupt. I've pledged not to accept earmarks this year. But earmarks are only just the pinnacle of a big problem that we face in Congress. We don't have a lack of people across this country that want to stop the wasteful spending. We have a lack of congressmen and senators who want to stop the wasteful spending, and we need to put more people up here that will join us. So I applaud the Citizens Committee Against Government Waste, and it's just something that we have to continue to put forward the light of day on these wasteful projects, and I congratulate them.
Congressman Ryan.
Morning, I'm Paul Ryan from Wisconsin. I serve as the ranking Republican on the Budget Committee. I want to thank Tom Schatz and the Citizens Against Government Waste and all the people there for working for the taxpayers. This book right here shows you the priorities of Congress. And this book shows you that the priorities of Congress are to pick pork over paychecks. And what I mean when I say that is the budget resolution that we brought to the floor as a substitute 3 weeks ago said, let's have a moratorium for 1 year and let's bank those savings. By simply doing that, by having Congress say no earmarks for a year and saving that money instead of spending it, we can permanently extend the $1,000 per child tax credit and permanently repeal the marriage penalty. Those two policies right there in and of itself can be achieved. More money in families' paychecks, not taxing people for being married, letting people keep $1,000 per child in their tax credits if we say no earmarks for a year and save the money. That's what the Republican budget resolution did. This shows you the real dollars and cents that are involved here. And the final point is this. If Congress can't fix this problem, do you think that Congress will have the moral authority to address the real giant fiscal challenges on our horizon, namely the baby boomers retiring, our unsustainable entitlement programs? And the answer is no. Congress has massive responsibilities that we are shying away from. We have a huge impending problem with our entitlement crisis. We're not doing anything about it. We're instead porking up the place and choosing pork over paychecks, and that's wrong.
Congressman Flake.
I'm Jeff Flake from Arizona. I grew up in a small town called Snowflake, Arizona. And I grew up on a ranch, and the paycheck for the year for us kids came when we'd take a steer to the county fair, and whatever we got out of the steer, that was our pay for the year. If you had a bum steer, you had a bad year. But whenever I got a little lazy and didn't want to work with teaching the steer to lead and whatever for the year, I took a pig to the fair. And because it was easy, you just, beat it around with a stick a little and show it to the judges, and you don't get as much money, but it's a lot easier. And I feel that that's what Congress has done here. We have a process, the hallmark of Congress for centuries has always been authorization, appropriation, and oversight. And when we do pork like this, we circumvent that process and we become lazy. Some will say earmarks only represent 2% of the federal budget. That is true. But when we earmark, we don't look at the rest of the federal budget. The Appropriations Committee, when it has to deal last year with 36,000 earmark requests, they simply don't have the time or resources to do any other oversight. And if you look empirically over the last decade or so, as earmarks have gone up substantially from 1,400 to 15,000 in 2005, actual oversight hearings in the Appropriations Committee have gone down. And so we say we don't want those faceless bureaucrats in some department to spend the money, we're going to spend it. But the problem is they're still spending money, we're just not looking at it because we're so intent on earmarking just 2% of the federal budget. So earmarks are much more important than just the money wasted on these silly projects. It means that we simply don't do the oversight that we are called to do under Article 1. So that's why this is important, and I just applaud Citizens Against Government Waste and Tom and all of you for doing this every year. I wish this book were thinner, like it was just a one-time blip last year. Instead, it's pretty big. But thank all of you for inviting us here.